All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the program. Tonight, we're doing the live check-in call for weeks 5 and 6 of the program. And I'll be divulging how I'm doing with the work so far. And taking a look at the practices that we've been working on, including the mnemonic induction of lucid dreams and the lucid dream meditation combined with the essential oils, the mind mapping, which has been really awesome, and the wake back to bed technique. So I gotta say, man, the mind mapping is really good. That's a big time saver. I'm very happy about that. And I'm actually surprised at the how much a single word or just a few words from a dream actually do bring back like a full impression of a dream, which is really, really cool. And also getting to see like connections between the dreams, and also like when I have like repeating locations or repeating themes, like whether like I had an instance where I had a similar theme on the same night of the week. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, so I've been putting like a little symbol for the day inside the bubble, so I know, and I'm like, oh, that same landscape appeared on that same night or that same, like on Monday night, both nights I had, the same location or whatever. Right. So it's interesting how it's kind of seems to be almost like mapping out, mind map, but like really actually giving almost like a more visual representation to my inner world, really.
And also how, we talk about these energies playing a role in trying to utilize them in other activities that we do, right? So, of course, it would make sense that, the subconscious mind, being so much more subtle, would be impacted by these energies as well, right? So once you start to learn that, I mean, you can really
you mean the subtle energies of the day?
Yeah. Like, using like the planetary aspects and things like that. It's not so much astrology, right, as it is just, we're not going that far, but it's like, the planetary aspects of the day again. So just how they're linked, right? So like Tuesday's Mars and Wednesday's Mercury and so on and so forth, right? If you start to see patterns, and if you started to see like generic qualities of dreams on certain days, then you can sort of pick the day you want to get in there. If you have problems, once you're able to get in consistently, right, you can sort of pick the day and say like, okay, I've got this to work on, where I'm trying to problem solve. Wednesday might be a really good day since that's more analytical, and so on and so forth, right? So it's like, and you just, you'd be able to utilize that, not right from the beginning, but you want to see how the patterns arise first, right? Without putting all that extra stuff in your head from the beginning, right? It's just, you just look at, like you said, you're starting to see patterns arise from the mind mapping, and maybe we should rephrase it and call it, subconscious mapping, because I mean, in a way, it's almost like made for this type of work, mind mapping in general.
And when you've done this, do you find that you're almost like, you're mapping your subconscious? What do what do you think of those different locations as being? Are those just different themes that like play out within ourselves, like those locations and the people that we find there? And since we're seeing these similar patterns and like overlapping locations, and it's almost like we're mapping out an actual interior landscape, but how do you think about those places? Could it be anywhere from like um uh like could a habit express itself as a landscape or an idea that you hold or a belief that you hold? Is that kind of like what we're thinking of these places as being, almost like?
Yeah, I mean, it's general tone a lot of times. Like when I enter a dream, and with it, when I'm not, if I'm in a regular dream that becomes lucid, right? So because if I do a wild, I go to my same starting place, right? But if I enter a dream, that's sort of automatic, right? I'm in a dream, and then it's usually I end up when I become lucid in it, then I'm looking at the landscape where I am, right? So those are sort of the first, imagine, somebody puts a bag over your head and then they take you someplace, right? And you don't really know where you are. And then they take the bag off. The first thing you're going to do is sort of look, right? Where are you? Is it day? Is it night? The general things, just like you would do here. If you were all foggy or something confused, and then all of a sudden you became clear, lucid, right? You'd look around, you'd say like, oh, it's daytime, it's blue sky, or that it's a urban environment, or a rural environment, or wild countryside, whatever. I mean, all of those things will have correspondences with you after a while. Some of us, I mean, there are some people that, let's say, our general inclination, right, is some people love the seaside, right? They love to go to the beach and just watch the waves come in, and the smell and the salt air and all of that, right? And other people, I mean, for me, that's not such a big deal, right? I've never been a big ocean person. I mean, it's enjoyable, but it's not something that I crave to go to. Now, give me, a remote cabin, in a mountainside someplace in a forest, or on a mountain lake somewhere that's peaceful and quiet. I could be there the rest of my life, right? So it's like we all have our natural inclinations. So, those correspondences would be different for us slightly, right? So it's like the person that really loves the beach, they have a different mindset than I would. So I'd be looking at it from the correspondences that I could connect to that. Like, I have a correspondence for the ocean and sand and beach type situations, and as well as all the other environmental things that are going on, right? It's from years of building those up, but it becomes very clear when I enter that, what am I going into? And so, or what's the general flavor of the dream? What's the subconscious trying to convey to me? Remember, it speaks in symbols, right? So everything there is you, and it's all symbolic and trying to give you information. It's trying to set up a conversation with you. When the exciting part is when you get that conversation rolling. It's like when you end up at the beach, as an example, right? And you're like, oh, okay, we're here. Let's, so then you can start, asking questions, or, I mean, you can ask the landscape questions, right? There's really no limit, right? So it's sort of like you could just, hey, beach landscape, what do you have to show me? Or you might want to make it a little bit more clear than that, but because you're just going to get all kinds of crazy stuff potentially, or nothing, right? So it's not that it doesn't work. It's, again, sort of tweaking your ability to ask questions, that can't be slid around, right? So it's like, it's almost lawyerish, and it's like our friend Ed could speak to that. It's like, making a question that, is really very pinning somebody down or pinning something down to give you a direct answer. So you can start with things that are easy, right? Like if you're just checking that out, you'd say like, yeah, hey, beach landscape, show me something funny. Just to kind of get the conversation going, right? And it's not something that you're going to be, scared about, or anxiety ridden about, or whatever. It's like something funny, right? So who doesn't like comedy? So, and it's interesting when you do that, right? To see what your subconscious, which is you, right, shows you something that you're going to think is absolutely hilarious. The only danger with that is that you might laugh so hard that you come back, right? So, but if you can engage it in that way, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's like there's nothing there that you can't engage, right? Because it's all symbols for you. So just a little, nuance of that. That's all. But it's interesting that you're finding those through the mind mapping, that you're finding those connections that quickly, because that's really good. And sometimes I think it takes weeks before that happens, months even. But that's fantastic, because it really does give you a better understanding, of getting in. And that's what we need in the beginning, right? We're trying to saturate ourselves with, dreaming and lucid dreaming and remembering it. It's really important when we do things like the mind mapping. And the other good part about the mind mapping, like you said, is that it spurs your memory. You're kind of surprised that just seeing a single word can bring back the whole dream. But that's great, right? Because one of the things that's not talked about very much is that, one of the things that you can do that's sort of, I don't want to call it a technique, because it's more of just an understanding, right? That when we do this work, when we're trying to become lucid in our dreams on a regular basis and working toward that, it's good to stimulate your memory, right? I mean, that's why we do the dream recall and the dreams. So that's a combined thing, right? When we do the prospective memory exercises, right? It's like making your lists and trying to remember them. Try to remember things through the day, like work on your memory. The more clear and the more efficient and the more effective you get in your daily routines, that's going to carry over. If you're confused and always, muddled, and, that's going to carry over too into your dream. So, and you'll have, less likely, you're going to get it sooner or later, but you're going to have less consistency. So, remember that it's the flip side of the same coin, right? So we're doing all these techniques and exercises here to sort of establish what it is, establish that what we do here, and adding that in so that when we dream, those things will come through. That's the idea, right? With reality checks and all of these things, right? So the idea is, yeah. So why wouldn't we try to become more clear here, more lucid in this dream, this waking dream, right? If you have that idea and you know that it's going to transfer across, it's only going to make your life easier on both sides, obviously, right? If I'm more clear here and I'm less confused, and, I'm working on my memory and I'm trying to learn new things and trying to, just, think of all the little things that we depend on our phones for, putting lists in and doing this and doing that. Like, I try to do at least one or two things a day where I'm just, I depend on my memory to cue me to do it. I don't put it in my phone, or, I put it on on a different list that doesn't give me a spur sometime in the day, right? So that I can see at the end of the day, did I remember those things? Did I do them? So I'm constantly doing little things like that, so that, when I do tell myself, the next time you're dreaming, you'll recognize that you're dreaming. Or the next time I'm dreaming, you're going to remember your dreams.
Right.
So it's building on that constantly and trying to give yourself that command and then following through with it. So if you do that more here, even with nonsense things, little things here or there, it's it'll carry through into the dream time as well. That's the start of it, really. I mean, and you'll really get a lot of traction with that as time goes on, especially when you're trying to just, like, you're in consistently once a week, but you're trying to ramp it up, right? You're trying to get in numerous times in the week, or even when you go to sleep. I think that's one of the key things that will, if you have a night off and you're just sleeping and dreaming normally, that's one of the things that you'll spontaneously trip into a lucid dream, or the option of doing that, right? So, and I think that that's one of the things, is that the more clarity and lucidity we try to bring here, the more of that you'll see in the dream as well. So one of the things is that your dreams get more vivid, right? They may not be lucid, but they get much more vivid. They get much more clear. And so, and that's one of the indicators that, you know, you're doing that here as well. And so you can ramp that up.
Right. So just so everybody knows, the reality checks and the perspective memory stuff we're going to be covering in the next segment of the program. So we'll go over that a little bit more in more detail uh, in the future. But also but you know, there was a couple things that I wanted to just say was, you know, it's, you know, when I was asking you about what are these places in your subconscious and what are these people or what are these themes, I'm always trying to like pin down a correspondence between like what is it exactly that I'm exploring or inside of when I'm in my subconscious. And you know, I just feel like that was so great just that you reiterated two things, that it's personal and that it's a conversation, which I always feel like I forget, you know, like that it's that I'm talking, you know, because it's like, go talking to who? Talking to your subconscious. It's like, that's not very well personified for most of us. People say like your subconscious or your unconscious mind. And it's like, well, both of those things imply like less awareness than what I have right now. Maybe vaster, but somehow duller or less or not like,
Less clarity.
yeah, like less clarity, less persona, less intent, you know. So it's like how that idea of conversation seems so foreign with something so abstract.
Yeah. And I mean, boy, I'll tell you, you know, as we go through this and people get more into it, there's going to be a lot of conversations like that, you know, because I mean,
You mean
we're not even
ones that are
like this.
abstract?
Yeah, because we're not going to, you know, we're barely scratching the surface right now. I mean, you know, because in reality, I mean, that's the place that has the clarity. I mean, what's more clear than you think something and it happens right in front of you?
What do you mean by that's the place that has the clarity though?
Like your subconscious is directly, uh, you know, it's such a energized realm. It's such a, uh, you know, it takes, I don't want to say direction. I don't, I, the interaction that you have when you're there, when you're inside your own subconscious, is it's practically instantaneous, right? Or it can get to be that way. So, you know, you're thinking something and it's happening, and you want to do something and you're doing it, right? The opportunity to do it immediately shows up. I mean, can you imagine if that was happening here? I mean, it's kind of like those funny scenes in the Secret where the guy's thinking about an elephant and there's an elephant, you know, dropping a huge load in his living room, right? It's like there's that shock value of like, you know, yeah, people want to create right away, but we don't have that kind of control, right? And
Like the
so, but
idea of instant
that
manifestation or
it's
whatever?
harder, you know, for here where it's like, okay, well, we've got to put a little time delay there so people can think of all the, you know, all the parameters that could spin off from this decision to create something. And you know, there, you know, that's those governors are taken off, right? So it's like you can be there, and as soon as you say, well, okay, I'm floating, maybe I can fly across the mountains. Well, there's a mountain range and you're flying. And so, you know, it's immediate response. I mean, it's so responsive. You know, your subconscious is so responsive to you. So, and, and, and it's clear, right? It's just like here, remember that you don't, you consciously know that you're dreaming, but you're not going to be able to tell the difference between you know, there, you know, in a dream because things have solidity. It's like, okay, maybe the laws of physics could be a little skewed, but still, things are solid. They don't look any different. It's not like, it's hard to imagine, because we've all had dreams as people, right? And we remember our dreams, hopefully. But there's that bit, right, where it's like when we're in there, or what we're remembering from the dream, because when we wake up, right, we're just recording our dreams, right? And so we're remembering the dream. So it's sort of like, you know think about it this way. Think about what you had for dinner last night. The plates you used, the forks you used, what you ate. Was it good? Was it not? Was it whatever, right? But even memory now, it's not like crystal clear like we're talking on the computer right now. It's a memory of a past event. And so, but when you're actually in the lucid dream, even though you're telling yourself, oh, I'm dreaming, but it doesn't make it this washed out sort of watery, confused territory, right? It's crystal clear. It's just like here. And so, you're going to have to keep, you're not going to have to keep doing reality checks, but every now and then you're going to kind of go, wait a second. That's one of those things that is easily lost, because you can start acting in there as if you weren't dreaming. Right. So it's like it can sort of throw you into I don't know, like a false dream. Right. So like almost like you're off and you're going to work. And so your lucid dream becomes just your average day at work instead of going out and doing something, whatever. You can be tricked into, from, oh, it's a dream, I'm lucid. And then you start doing your normal routines, which is still pretty cool. But then all of a sudden it's so normal, your habituated self just takes over, and you just sort of go back into the drone zone of not being awake, right? You're going through your daily routine at work. And so it's, in the beginning, it's a constant sort of checking in with yourself and saying, okay, this is a dream. All right, this is a dream. Let me do something over here. I'm focusing on this. I'm doing it. It's a dream. Okay, and I'm going to move over here. You do that in the beginning just to, again, stabilize and make sure you can be in there for as long a time period as you need to be.
Right. But when you say that we're having a conversation with our subconscious, like, what is that? Like, who is our subconscious that we're having the conversation with?
It's you. There's nothing but you there. At least.
But why does it have, it's kind of like that Jordan Peterson thing. You assume that the person you're talking to knows something that you don't, right? So, but it's like, it's you. So what does it know that I don't, that I need to know? How does that work? I don't like.
Well, your subconscious is recording, the best audio, visual, and sensory recording equipment ever conceived, as far as we know, right? I can't speak to other things, right? But as far as human beings go, and in our physical world, nothing compares. So, and it's recording constantly from the time that you're, in the womb to the time that you're through your life here. And so, and if, again, I don't want to get too metaphysical right now, but at the same time, it's sort of like, it's my understanding that it records, some of the recordings that you've had from past existences come through as well. And you have this connection with the records of all human experience. And so, it knows a shitload more than you do, consciously, right? It has access to all these things, not just your history, but the history of human. And so, yeah. So it doesn't mean you have to take everything, as the gospel, but obviously if you're getting information, you're asking about the lottery numbers, you're not going to mortgage the house and go play those numbers, right? It's like, you got to check things out in a conscious way. But but it definitely deserves interaction. It's there's nothing wrong with those interactions, right? So you might as well dive in there and get used. They can be very frustrating too if you're asking broad questions and you're getting very seemingly elusive answers, right? But they're just, it's got to choose from all of these possible answers that it can give you because you've asked a very vague question. You're going to get a very vague answer back. So that can be frustrating. And that's why I say a lot of times it's uh, learning to ask very good questions is an art, right? And it will serve you well to learn to do that. They don't all have to be yes or no's either, right? So it's that's the thing. But you want to make them as pointed as possible, so that there's very little wiggle room there for answers to come back any other way.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So with the techniques that we were doing, I did many wake back to bed nights, and I found that when I used the technique of just writing out what I intended to dream, I didn't have any lucid dreams following that practice, but I did do two nights since we last did one of these calls where I did a wake back to bed technique, and I practiced the lucid dream meditation, and then went back to sleep. And both of the times that I did that, I had lucid dreams. So it was, and they were relatively short and, short lived or whatever, but they were
Yeah.
good. And they were, and I either had a lucid dream during during the time following that wake back to bed period, or I had like a dream where I was, you know, during one of those same nights where I had the lucid dream where I was like explaining to somebody, um, why they'd want to learn to lucid dream and what all the benefits are and stuff like that. So it's very like all around the theme, and
Right.
so it definitely boosted that up a lot. And so I found that was really good. But I guess if I had a question about that, it would be like you were saying how, um, that it's the same you, whether it's waking reality or the dreaming reality. And I find that that period of meditation in the middle of the night doing the wake back to bed is at this point really making the difference between, um, you know, having a lucid dream or having a regular dream or having any success with it or not or whatever. So what I'm getting at is like, what, when you say that there's the difference between just droning through our day and being awake, I imagine that that's analogous to, my normal state of consciousness and my state of consciousness after doing a meditation, right? If that's
Right.
facilitating some lucidity in the dreams. So like, but what is like, um, the essence of that state? So like that we can promote that more regularly throughout the day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does it mean to be like awake or conscious or?
Well, I mean, one of the Buddhist practices is, just telling you, you're doing those reality checks, right? Like, am I dreaming? And the answer is always yes in the waking day, right? And so, because for them, I mean, part of their doctrine is this is all just an illusion, right? It's just Maya, right? So it's like, and so, we don't want to get too deep into their religious philosophy, but that's the idea. So there's no, again, the parts that I think about are that I've taken from my own is that there's no difference really between the waking dream and the sleeping dream, let's call it. It's just how you know how do we what are the main themes that we interact with in both territories. If I'm clear in one, can I be clear in the other? Can I transfer that clarity back and forth? And so, and is that something that will facilitate going into lucid dreams more frequently and being able to stabilize and be there for longer. And I think it is. Um,
But what
is
does that
that
mean, right? What does that mean? What do you mean by clarity? Does that mean like sensitivity of of awareness? Like what does it mean? Like I'm conscious more of um, what I'm of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, or I mean, I guess we all know the difference between being immersed in a particular task throughout the day and kind of losing consciousness of everything else that may be going on or other things that are not relevant to the activity that's taking place at the time. But I mean, more than just saying to yourself like, oh, I'm dreaming, or this is just a dream, like what does that mean? Like I'm really paying attention to the sounds I'm hearing and the sights that I'm seeing, or
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like if you're, if you ask yourself if you're dreaming in the day, and then and you're saying to yourself, yes, you could just, I mean, obviously that's something that's so simple, you could just do it all day long, right? But it would end up just being this rote words that you're saying with no feeling behind it, because there's nothing that comes after that. And so, um, because I mean, think about it from think of it in reverse, right? So like when you're in a regular dream and you see a dream sign, or you get some trigger that gives you the opportunity to wake up, and you go, oh, wait a second, I I think I'm dreaming, and you do something that you check it out, right? You look at a clock and then look away. Am I dreaming? And you look at the clock and it's a different time, and you can verify, what that, so that that you're in a dream. But then everything, because you've woken up in the dream, everything becomes very crystal clear. It becomes like your normal day reality, right? Again, things look the same. They look solid, or the colors are there. Everything is there. It's not foggy at all. So if we're trying to do that in the sleeping dream and come out of that dream, it's like, I think it's probably akin to the mindfulness in some ways, where you're really trying to be present with everything that you do. And obviously we fade in and out. Only, real masters of that, they kind of stay in that momentary zone, consistently through the day. But we can keep bringing ourselves back to that, because the more that we do it, um, the more chance is that that's going to occur when we have a regular dream, or when we're doing a mild mnemonic induction. And so when I do that here and I say, am I dreaming? And yes, this is a dream. Or I can just say, I don't even have to ask if I'm dreaming, just say, this is a dream. And then I really focus and try to bring something into crystal clarity for myself. Like, it can be anything, right? So it's like I look at, instead of just looking at you on the computer, I'll look at the keys, right? And I'm really focused on the letters, and just, okay, here's the top row, here's the bottom row. I'm looking at those things, and really, just, if it's a visual acuity thing, if it's sound, then whatever the sounds are in the room at the time, I'm really focusing on the sound just for a few seconds, right? It's just enough, because I'm just trying to wake myself up, to become lucid in this moment. And that habit transfers through to the dream, right? So the more that I do that here, it's going to transfer through into a regular dream as well. You'll have opportunities where all of a sudden you're saying, this is a dream. And then, the next thing that you're going to do, because the habit is, then I become really sharply, focused on something. And that will be the trigger that, wait a second, it's like, that was a Q and now it's a C. That's not right on the keyboard where it is, so, oh, I'm actually dreaming. And so you're really getting, super focused clarity. And again, it doesn't have to be with the visual, right? It could be anything. It could be whatever it could be your hand, on the tabletop, and really trying to feel the texture of it if you can, and, whatever that's like, and almost trying to describe it through the sense of touch. You don't have to verbalize it, right? It's just you're really trying to, almost like if you were trying to read Braille or something like that. So it's just about asking, not even asking the question, but just stating that idea that yes, this is a dream, and then trying to focus in on something very very sharply, and that effort, if it's done long enough, will actually transfer through into the dream. It's not something you have to you know worry about or try to do. It'll just happen, right? If you have to try to do that in a dream, then you're already lucid. So
Right.
there's no reason to do it, right? But it's just, we're trying to carry through so many opportunities from the waking life into the dreaming life that will give us a trigger to become awake in our dreams. That's all it is.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I also found that like even though I had some success with the doing the wake back to bed technique, like the first time I had success with it, and then I went like 3 or 4 nights after that. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this again. It worked a little bit, so let's make it work a lot. And it was like, nope, 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 nope. you know, and I I I found that it was so easy to fall back into that kind of like a pattern of like discouragement. It's like even though I had like a good night or whatever,
Right.
then right after it's like then I'm it's like already jumping right back into that like, oh yeah, why am I even doing this, like so it's so hard, like this is ridiculous. So,
It's like that separation anxiety, in a way, right? It's like you have a glimpse of it and then you want to get back there, and it's like it's seemingly so difficult. But again, uh, you want to try to, you know, mimic what you're trying to do in the dreaming world here. And when you do that, that transition will carry through much more cleanly. And don't exhaust yourself doing the wake back to sleep thing. It's like for a few days, do the mnemonic one, where you're just doing it, implanting that idea, giving it, focus on the performing those memory tasks, prospective memory and all of those types of things. Doing, just give yourself a simple task, right? Like just remember to do one thing in the course of the day that you're not writing down, and remember to do it. And so then, uh, it literally can be anything, right? Just something really simple, and focus on that, and that will start to carry through. Especially, and be excited when you do it. Don't just be deadpan about it, right? It's like, remember, emotion is the juice that drives all of us, and so if it's even, don't belittle your efforts as far as that goes. Don't exhaust yourself. Work on your clarity here, and you're being focused and awake here on and off through the day, and that will carry over into the mnemonic induction at night when you go to bed. And the other thing is, it doesn't hurt to, like, for 1 minute, at your end of your day, and you're sitting on your bed before you crawl into the covers and try doing your thing. It's like, just to sit there and go, okay, I'm just going to review. You're doing like a super mini, lucid dream meditation, right? With whatever the most recent dream that you had was, right? If it's lucid, fine. If it's a regular dream, fine. It doesn't matter. You're giving you know, you're setting the stage. You're priming the pump. That's why I think the meditation prior to your attempt that was successful, that's what's going on there. You're if you're following the lucid dream meditation, right? So you're balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, right? So they're in a nice balance by doing the fourfold breath. Then you're relaxing the body. Right? You're really, kind of taking down any excess tension that might be there. And then you're inducing the dream, right? You're reviewing the dream and then changing it. And then at the end, you're very grateful, which is a very emotional response, right? And and that really kind of links you into that. And so it's almost like then when you go and do your attempt, it's like, oh, you want me to do that pattern? Okay, let's do that. So the subconscious, gets in there and sort of offers you that opportunity again. Is that really what is that really what you want to do? So, but that should be the same with any of the techniques that we do, like the writing technique, writing out what it is. It's like, that might not have worked for you yet, but at some point, it may, right? If you have enough juice behind the writing, right? It's like, when you're pretty consistent with it, it's going to be like, oh, okay, what am I going to do tonight? All right, well, I'm going to remember to do this and I'm going to do this. And oh, okay, and I kind of reviewed in my mind after I've written it out. And like, did I forget anything? How's that going to go? How long am I going to be in? That I fill in the details, right? And so it sort of gets me going. Not enough to make me so excited I can't go back to sleep, right? But there is that bit of anticipation, and as if and when I review it, I'm reviewing it in the present moment, right? I'm not reviewing it like, here's something I'm going to do later. It's like I'm doing it as if I'm doing it right now. Like I'm walking down the path and, I meet this big green bear and, whatever, right? So it's like, I'm always doing it right here, right now. And that's another thing, is that I don't tend to, um, push things into the future too far. It's like when I'm reviewing my stuff and doing it, it's like I feel like I'm doing it right now. And that's a big deal. So that when you go to sleep and you do your mnemonic induction, it's all about that present moment, right? So, and that'll get you a lot farther too, because your conscious mind can push that off till, never, right? So you don't want to just keep pushing that out farther and farther. It's like whenever you're doing your reviews or anything like that, it's like it's in that present moment, like it's happening right now to you, and that's what you want to, induce on a regular basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially since like when I was writing out like what I was thinking I would do, it was kind of with an attitude of like, yeah, like I guess if I get lucid, I'll do this, or I mean, this would kind of make sense, or like, I don't know, I guess I could try this, but I don't know if I really want to do that. And like, it wasn't like, that's totally, I mean, if the emotion is the juice, it's like, it can be hard to stimulate that positive expectancy, especially if you feel like you're not confident that's going to happen anyway,
Right.
So,
But again, that's part of that courage, phenomena too, right? It's like I'm I'm being brave enough to write out exactly the experience that I want, and
and brave enough to do it
do I
with
get
us.
it or not, right? It's like this is,
Mm,
somebody's asking me what I want. I'm brave enough to say what I want. I don't go, oh, whatever, whatever. It's like that's not going to do anything. It
right.
doesn't work for you, and it doesn't work for them, right? It's like, if it was an interaction between two people here, that's sort of a lot of times people hedge on that, right? It's like they don't want to be disappointed, so they don't ask for what they want.
Right.
And so, but if the person's asking them, you usually take that on a pretty straight one-to-one level. I mean, I will, if that's what what do you want? I'm telling them what I want. So, and that's it. And so, and if they say, "Oh no, I can't do that," well, then okay, let's negotiate, right? But
Yeah,
when
but
they start like that, I want to be very clear about that. And so the same thing with this, you know, what are you writing down? What you might want, or kind of, if it's okay, maybe you could do this, maybe kind of, sorta. It's like no, it's like be courageous, write down exactly what you're going to, if if you were going to get it, what is it that you would want to experience? and write it down, and as if it's happening right now. Like whatever it's like a Harry Potter book, right? It's like whatever you write on the page starts to come into existence, right? It becomes alive, it becomes that event. And so uh, yeah, so that's sort of the excitement level you want. Again, not enough to make you not be able to go back to sleep, but you do want to have some anticipation about, you know, I'm going to have a great time here. you know, right here, right now, this is going to be awesome. And that's it. And so, and if not, you do the same one the next night, or maybe you choose something different. It's almost like every time you do something, it's going to produce that a bit of anticipation, but also I'm getting it out there. I'm priming the pump, just like you did with the meditation, right? It's sort of like I take that few minutes, I do my breathing, I might do a little bit of relaxation or open focus meditation with the page in front of me, my pen in my hand, and then I write what I'm going to do tonight. What I'm going to do, what's happening right now. Boom, boom, boom. And then I review it. I look at it. I visualize it or think about it like, oh boy, this is going to be great. And then maybe I could add a couple things in there, So it's like, oh, I forgot about this. I'm going to put this in there. So you get that little. It's sort of this back and forth, and you're really engaging it in that way. And then a bit of gratitude, right? We'll really just send it through. It's like, wow, if I could have that, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so when I get that, that's just going to be so cool. We don't want to overanalyze this stuff, right? It's an exciting thing. It's and again, if people stick with it, there's nobody that I've ever met that couldn't do it. Obviously you had two since the last time, or at least, right? So, I mean, they were short-lived, but you can do it. So, and the momentum keeps building, so you're obviously going to get better at it, and it's going to keep producing more and more consistently too. So that's already, good.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Now, what couldn't you do?
What do you mean?
What'd you have a hard time with?
In terms of what's that?
Besides the writing for the exercises this week or the last 2 weeks?
Oh, I mean, I don't think I had a hard time with any of it other than, like that disappointment of, like really going after it and thinking that, oh, that wake back to bed technique, oh, that worked really well. I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna, I'll get in there and doing the mnemonic inductions. I mean, I've been doing them every night. So it's almost like, I think the most challenging thing at this point is just the ability to put myself into the place of actually expecting or feeling that it's going to happen. Not thinking of it analytically like, oh, it's probably not going to happen because the percentage of success that I've had so far is pretty low, even though I've had success. So it's like, it's not that like I feel like I'm kidding myself when I'm telling myself I'm going to have a lucid dream or tonight I'm going to recognize that I'm dreaming, but it does feel there is a strong defeatist attitude in me that's looking at it from more of like an objective realist standpoint. That's like, you're saying that to yourself, but there's like a 10% chance of it actually happening, numbers wise. And like for the level that you're at, like that's just the reality of the situation right now. So I know you're saying that you're going to, and I know that you're trying to like build excitement around this, but and I know, and then there's the part that knows that doesn't that doesn't help or facilitate it in any way. So it's like getting over that, but it's still, it doesn't seem to make it really easier to put the energy or the juice or the belief into the things that I'm saying and trying to send into my subconscious. It's still kind of like, and so I don't put my full energy into really affirming it, because it's like I'm just like going through the motions most of the time.
You gotta burn that shit, man. You gotta. That's like schizophrenic. Come on.
I'm not like, I'm not like,
I can't even think that many things at once. You
no,
know.
I know. I mean, I'm not thinking about all those things when I'm doing it. I'm just like saying like those, like if I'm describing the experience
Right.
like, from a bird's eye view, like I know that that's kind of like what's happening. So,
Well, here's a tip, right? Like, you have certain nights off, or you're just doing the mnemonic one, right? And so, let's say, let's say, how's your dream recall?
really good. I mean,
Good.
it's been getting really good. It's been
Okay.
getting better and better, and yeah, so
So
definitely
let's
getting
use
better.
that strength, right? Let's leverage a strength that you have. So when you do let's say for the next few nights, you do your mnemonic induction when you go to sleep, right? So you're going to sort of review the things in your head for a minute before you crawl into bed, right? And then you go and you start to do your mnemonic induction. But here's the induction. When instead of saying what you've been saying, say something like, the next time I'm dreaming, I'm going to remember my dreams in explicit detail. So, because what'll happen, if you really, first of all, you can do it, so you can put some oomph behind it. You don't have to worry about something else crawling in and going like, well, it's only 10% and maybe not, and So let's get around that shit. All right, it's like you can do because you've already done it, right? So it's like put some effort into that. So what's going to happen? You're going to again extend it into the dream scenario, right? So it's like the next time I'm dreaming, I'm going to remember my dreams in explicit detail. Then you wake up in the morning, you remember your dreams, you write it down or record it or whatever you do, right? And you do that for a few days in a row. So you've had success with your mnemonic induction, right? Wonderful success with that. So then after 3 or 4 nights of that, then you go same routine, everything's the same. And then you do the next time I'm dreaming, I'll recognize that I'm dreaming and I'll be lucid.
Okay.
Play to your strength.
Okay.
So if if you can hit a single all the time without even thinking about it, parlay that into, a home run.
Okay. Yeah, it's
idea.
that makes sense. I'll definitely do that. And also, it reminded me of, last night was one of the nights that I did have a lucid dream from the wake back to bed. And it was very short, but I almost forgot it. Like it was completely out of my mind. Like it didn't have, like I woke up with that feeling like, oh, well, I tried, blah, 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 blah. Like, and then I made my way into where I do my meditations and stuff like that. And then I took out my journal and started making notes from the dreams that I did remember. And I was like, oh yeah, I was, I was lucid there for a moment, for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then it made me reflect this morning on and ask myself, more questions and do more observation around it, because it was like, why? It's like, you, again, is that whole phenomena of like, you had the lucid dream, but then there's that part of you, or that faculty of, memory or whatever, that's kind of like, you can even have it go back to sleep and then have it just
Right.
disappear from recollection, which is like,
Absolutely.
come on. Like, what is
Oh,
that?
fair. That's not fair.
Getting me at every turn, man.
I've had that happen like halfway through a day or at the end of a day. All of a
Wait.
sudden have an amazing memory of like a dream, of a lucid dream that I totally spaced on. The next morning I thought, oh, it's just a regular night.
Yeah.
Okay. Went to work, had the whole normal day. And then like on the drive home, I was like, like instant recall of the whole, the whole event. And I was like, holy crap,
Mm.
that was an amazing event. I mean, that was surprising and really like, I think that I was as stunned and happy by that as I was lucid dreaming, because it was just so odd to think that, that part of your memory, that was gone for a little while. And then all of a sudden, whatever the trigger was, I can't even tell you what it was. It wasn't like I was doing anything in particular, but obviously whatever, either a place that I passed driving or maybe something on the radio or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was just like instantly I had the full thing in front of me. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. That something you think about that, you can't remember any part of it. And then all of a sudden, 10 hours later, you have a full blown episode of remembering every detail of it. And it was pretty outstanding too. So, obviously there was information in there that my subconscious was trying to get to me and interacting with. And, the conscious mind blacked it out for a while, but then it just couldn't contain it. And, somebody punched it through.
Yeah. And then
So,
again, is like that idea of like the conscious mind. And do you think that the source of the forgetting is, you know, uh, perhaps, some of those barriers or fears that we talked about in the beginning of the program? And, is that basically what's going on there, or that kind of limiting factor of the conscious mind, and like fear of the unknown or unfamiliar or change, or how's this going to affect things, or all that kind of stuff?
I think it's all of that. I also think that it's like years and years and years and years and years of conditioning that says that, dreams aren't important.
Mm.
And, lucid dreaming is, you know, not possible. Or if you knew that it was possible, it'd be like, oh, it's too hard, or only certain people can do it. And, just years and years of that. I mean, that's a lot of conditioning to try to eradicate in a very short period of time. I mean, in some ways like that, you are fighting an uphill battle. So it's like you're really trying to, put in place a new paradigm of your existence. Really, I mean, it's like no long. You can't do lucid dreaming and then think that your dreams don't mean anything anymore. Those things don't go together, right? I mean, it's a pretty profound experience. And so, you start putting a lot of emphasis on it, and you build that area out in your life, and so it gains more and more momentum over time. So it does get easier over time. That's why repetition and momentum of doing it and sticking to it. And don't make it too boring, don't make it too much of a task. It should be. And my personal, you've known me for how many years now, and you know that I'm not, I mean, I'm a pretty serious guy, but at the same time I have a large comedic and fun loving streak, right? And this is one of those times where a lot of times with other types of work, I'm not telling you to have fun with it, right? But this one, it's like you have to have a little bit more fun, right? You have to have a little bit more engagement in a lighthearted way, because you're really trying to upset the paradigm that you've been living with for 30 something years, right? Or more for other people, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot to sort of turn that over. And, uh, so you have to kind of be lighthearted with yourself, right? Engage it from that lighthearted perspective. It's like, it should be exciting. It's like, again, uh, you know, it should be a little bit more lighthearted.
Mm-hmm.
Just, don't beat yourself because then it'll just be one more task that you have to do. And it's anything but that. I mean, there's effort and discipline involved, sure, but the rewards on the other side are, God, they're outstanding, right? They're like way. I mean, this is like, you're putting a penny in to win $1 million. It's like there's no comparison here. So and so that I can put pennies in all day, right? So it's like it's got to be that kind of lighthearted attitude toward it, and you'll get a lot farther. You'll get a lot farther. Because it's just, everything will be much lighter. It won't be just one more task you have to do. It won't be this heavy yoke that you're putting on yourself. Don't make it too stressful. It's not about that, because then you'll be in the dreams. Your regular dreams will start to become stressful too. So you don't want to do that, right? I mean, because it reflects what you're doing,
Right.
So
Right.
get, more, like things trying to suppress you and darker environments and all of that. It's like, it just lets you know that you're putting too much stress on yourself around that. So, you don't want to do that either. You don't want to make it dark, right? It's like, it's got to be a little bit lighter.
I had so many dreams like that.
I rest my case.
Oh man.
So I'm going to give you a dream sign that you can use, because there will be a certain number of people that use not just their dream signs, but they'll use the standard reality checks in the dream to see if you're dreaming, like text doesn't stay right, and looking away clock.
We haven't talked about that stuff yet, so.
But let me give you one that everybody can use, because it's something that's so common and it's so easy to work that if you start to put it into practice, I think you'll get some good play out of it. It's not my technique. It's one that I've heard from a couple of people, and it's worked pretty well, and I remembered it. So one of the things that you can do is, if you're trying to check and see if your light has a certain amount of play in the dream. And so one of the things that I've had a couple of colleagues that have done is that they look at the sun when they're in the dream, and you don't, because everybody at least has not looked into the sun, but like tried to look at the sun, right? And you're squinting and it hurts and it's not so comfortable, right? So, but in the dream, it's perfectly fine. Like you can look at the sun and there's no squinting or whatever. Usually it turns into just like a yellow disc or whatever most of the time. But usually, and that's one of those tried and true. So it's like, I'm dreaming. If I look in the sun in the physical reality, right, it's like it's going to be uncomfortable. Right? You don't want to damage your eyes, but it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to squint and do all those things, right? But in the dream, if you notice, if it's a bright day and you notice the sun, you can look at the sun and it has no effect on you. So that's a sort of a tried and true way to wake up. It's a contrived dream sign. We make it up, but it's one of those ones that serves in multiple purposes. And it's not uncommon for us to look for the sun. I mean,
right.
Here, right? It's like, oh, we're just sort of getting our bearings, right? It's like, oh, where is it? We don't have to look at it, but it's like, oh, it's over there. Okay. Well, that's a very common thing to sort of carry into the dream. But in the dream, if you're constantly thinking, well, the next time, now that we're getting better weather, right? We find the sun and we look at it a little bit, but it's kind of squinty, painful for our eyes. We can't do it very much. And so, but in the dream, you'll notice the sun and you'll look right at it, and it'll just be, your eyes will be wide open. It'll just be like, oh, well, there's the sun. Okay. Oh, I'm dreaming. So
Yeah,
another one of the ways to, sort of help another trigger, right? So
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's nice and easy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing how simple things that we've done from the time that we were kids, when you carry those events, when we actually focus on them and think about them and how they work, and it's not hard to sort of string those events along and bring them into the forefront now. Like it's as soon as I mentioned looking at the sun and squinting, everybody's had that experience, whether they're in the car and they turn a corner and the sun's right there, and before they can get the visor down or put their sunglasses on, right, there's that bit of like, whoa, that's really bright.
Sure.
And that's that. Yeah, so we remember that because we've all experienced it. And so if we pull up those experiences as time goes on, and then all of a sudden you're in a regular dream, but it's daytime or you're on the beach or whatever, and you start looking for the sun, and you find it, because when you look for something there, you find it, right? So you look for the sun, and oh, there it is in the sky. And you're looking at it. It's like, oh, eyes wide open, no discomfort. That will trigger you to say, oh, I'm dreaming. Success. so so try that, kind of put that into the routine and see how you do with that. I mean, it's something that we all have experienced, so those are the things that will carry through into the dream pretty easily. Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Nice, man. All right, cool. Well, thanks. And I think we'll
Carry
wrap it up. Yeah, party on, Garth.
on. Party on.
Yeah, that's good. That gives me a lot of things to think about and work with. So, and I think it will do the same for everyone else as well. So that's really good.
Joyful effort.
Yeah, that's tough to remember. Joyful effort.
I know. That's why I keep reminding you. Joyful effort.
I want to make angry effort.
You need more control for that.
All right, joyful effort. I will work on this.
That's it. Be lighthearted.
Work on this.
Be lighthearted. It'll serve you much better with this stuff.
Yeah.
To laugh at yourself and sort of just be in that moment, of anticipation, and you're going for it, and you're going to get it, so you might as well be happy now. Right.
Yeah, that's the thing that's weird. It's like I don't feel like I know that. You know. So.
Okay, well, I know that.
You know that. Well, I'll smile because Brian knows that.
That's right. That's right. That's what you should do until you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then keep it light.
Cool. Good advice. All right. Thank you. And we'll see you guys on the next installment.
It's an installment.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya.